Hello and welcome to this Hangout on Air. I am Stacey Harmon of Harmon Enterprises, and I am here with two of my favorite people, Scott Stern and Mike Bransom. We are going to talk specifically today about Evernote for the iPad. Both Scott and Mike are Evernote power users that really rely on the iPad Pro and Evernote to support their productivity from the field and beyond. Scott actually made a statement to me the other day that really prompted my interest in having this discussion. He said, I actually think my iPad Pro can be a laptop replacement for me. And I found that fascinating. And so I thought, well, let's talk about that. And my business is helping small businesses and individuals use Evernote more effectively and more productively. So I personally am not an iPad user. I have a MacBook Air, and I take that with me everywhere that I go. So to hear from users that are really working the iPad in the field with Evernote, I thought would be a nice perspective for the audience. If you have any questions during the live session here, you're welcome to put them into the Q&A pod that's kind of on the sidebar, and I'll do my best to answer them. But we're only going to go about half an hour, just kind of try to get you a lot of information in a short period of time about how these two gentlemen use the iPad and Evernote to really support their productivity. So feel free to jump in with questions. If we can't answer them now, you can also tweet me at Stacey Harmon. You can see the spelling of my name right there on the screen. But to begin, let me welcome these two guys and say thank you for taking the time to join me and share your experience. I certainly learned from you, so hopefully we can bring that to the Evernote world out there. Why don't you take a couple seconds, tell me who you are, what you do, and maybe a little bit how your work life is structured so we can understand the role that Evernote plays. Scott, do you want to go first?
Sure. Thanks, Stacey. I'm Scott Stern. I run a central marketing agency in Chicago. We're an inbound marketing strategy, digital marketing strategy consultancy. And yeah, as Stacey said, I kind of flipped from my trusty MacBook Air to my 9.7-inch iPad Pro, I don't know, about 2 weeks ago now. And we'll talk about it more, but it's been really good. And I use, kind of Evernote has, with Stacey's help, become kind of my hub for everything for the way I use everything. So I mean, that's how I structure my day is I go through the emails that I've sent to Evernote and then work out of there and keep coming back to that every time a new task is done, coming back in there. And it's been a little bit of an adaptation moving to the iPad, but we'll get into that a bit more.
Good. Well, we'll certainly talk about that some more. And then tell me a little bit about where your work is conducted. Do you have an office? Are you on the road? What does that look like?
We call ourselves digital nomads. I'm fully in WeWork. I'm in Chicago, but I have clients all over the country, in fact, all over the world. So I am fully digital. And that's the nice thing with the iPad is it moves around so easily.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. And so, Mr. Bransom, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, where you work.
My name is Mike Branson. I own Contract Source Group in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. We're a multi-line rep firm for the office furniture industry. So basically, I'm the infamous middleman. I help manufacturers. I'm the sales force for a number of manufacturers of office furnishings. I have multiple lines I then call on hundreds of dealers and A&D architectural design firms across the state of Michigan. I maintain basically 3 offices, one here in Bloomfield Hills, a full one in my house in Rochester, and another one in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so I'm moving all the time. I'm a Windows guy when I'm sitting at a desk. I'm an iOS guy when I'm mobile. So, and I've jumped around a few times. I've tried to go to different things. I had a MacBook Air and tried to stick that square plug in a round hole, and it was very hard to make those things work smoothly, and jumping between 2 systems was frustrating to me. The iOS is really pretty simple, and I can actually get a lot of my presentations up and running quickly and all that stuff. I'm an Evernote addict. I mean, I got 9,000 notes in there now. I've been using it for a number of years. Stacey really took me to the next place with Evernote at many levels, and continues to. I'm sure she'll, we're working on some GDT stuff now, which is, pretty in depth and trying to, as I say, we're trying to make Mike perfect. Um, Good luck with that.
Well, tell me, what percentage of the time are you spending on the road, or tell the audience what you'd say?
I'm in my office typically on Mondays and Fridays in Bloomfield, and then I'm on the road Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays, depending on where I'm going.
Okay, and for both of you, tell me what percentage of your Evernote usage is happening on your iPad Pro these days?
100% for, 90% for me. The other 10% is on my phone.
Wow, so you're really not using a notebook at all. This is now your computer.
This is now my computer. Yep.
Okay, and Mike?
I don't have a notebook. I use an iPad. If I'm not sitting at a desk, I have my iPad. And I've got very creative ways of using it in my car. Driving in Michigan, if you see a big black Tahoe swerving across the road, that's probably me on my iPad driving, which is, I'm sure, frightening to a lot of folks.
But you're using voice dictation, right? So
I am using voice dictation. I've become a big fan of voice dictation. I can write entire emails while doing 80.
okay, so one of the things I want to address with the iPad usage of Evernote is that interface is different because it capitalizes on the iOS app that Evernote develops specifically for the iPad and iPhone versus the desktop application for the PC or for Windows or Evernote for Mac, which is really the richest experience in terms of functionality. So can each of you talk to how that adjustment has been for you, or if there's any benefits or stumbling blocks to relying on and interacting with Evernote on the road through the iOS app?
I guess there haven't really been. I actually find, to me, I find that it's almost a better experience on my iPad than it is on a laptop or a desktop in some ways. Evernote is especially, I think we talked about this a little before, Stacey, beforehand, is the thing that iOS lacks that a lot of the reviewers talk about is the lack of a file system. And now there's iCloud, but we can get iCloud's iCloud. Evernote gives, in some ways, is a complete, really great file system for the iOS. I think the biggest change, though, and the reason I really like it is because of the handwriting ability. I can take notes in Penultimate, which I've been doing, or I can take them right in the Evernote app. And I have the Apple Pencil right here, and so I just write it during meetings. I did this last week. Just write the handwritten notes during meetings. It's much less intrusive, I think, than having a laptop between me and the person I'm talking to. I just have it down and I'm writing like normal, and then I can upload it from Penultimate, which is an Evernote app, right into Evernote, and it's searchable. It's everything that you would take if you scanned in, took a snapshot of your notes. So in that respect, I find it actually a richer experience because I can use Evernote now fully as my note-taking device, not partially in paper, partially on the screen. I don't know, Mike, if you found the same thing.
I agree 100%. The advent of the pen is the game changer to me 100%. I actually just bought another one. One of my sales guys who always carried around a moleskin. And my problem with that is that I'm right there with you, but I'm against paper. I mean, I think, and it's not a green thing with me. It's just purely I lose too many things. So, like Scott said, I use my iPad almost 90% of the time, but my iPhone, and now I just got this iWatch as a toy, but be able to go to Evernote and to kick off a couple of quick notes to myself and not have to grab my phone. I don't write much of anything anymore other than on this, and I agree with Scott 100%. It's what people do or take notes in a meeting. There's some sales doctrine that says you might ask permission before you take notes in some meetings, but it's very normal to sit down and start jotting those down. People think you're paying more attention if you're writing things down. You open a laptop and start typing, they don't know if you're, I think the perception is you're not paying attention to them anymore. You're paying attention. And if you watched me type, you'd understand why that is a big problem. So, but my guy that I just bought the Pro for, and I got him the new smaller one, he was an avid note taker. He's completely put his moleskin away and is not touching it again. I mean, he's...
Okay, so both of you are finding value out of the note-taking experience on the road. And Scott, you mentioned the file structure. You are putting documents in Evernote and retrieving them from your iPad, I presume.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I was doing it before anyway, is I put pretty much everything goes into Evernote. I have Google Drive as like a backup for certain things, but honestly, my Google Drive is I've stopped sorting and organizing in Google Drive because I can just put it right into Evernote.
And find it.
So what?
And find it. The underlying value there is that you can retrieve it.
Exactly. So I mean, there's some areas where, the one downside I've found is it's a little bit more difficult sometimes to attach things on the iPad. You have to take an extra step in email. I mean, go from Evernote, you save it to Google Drive, and then back in. But I think that that's going to just be a learning curve between, I think, Apple and Evernote. And
so you mean when you're trying to share files with people, or where does that come up?
Yeah, if I'm sending. If you're sending something, if I'm not sending it through Evernote for whatever reason, maybe the person's not an Evernote user and it's just easier in that case to send a file, a PDF or something, there is an extra step sometimes you have to take in certain email apps. It varies so much from the native mail app to I usually use Boxer to other ones so it just depends. I think that's the one downside is sometimes there's not the file sharing capability, but I found that usually there either is or it's so easy to figure out how to do it that it's not really an impediment.
Okay. And then Mike, on your side, you agree with Scott that the note-taking is a outstanding feature for you, and the pencil's been highly helpful in that regard. What about his use of it as a document storage area, and how does that relate to your experience?
Well, I got to follow what he says. We keep a very extensive Google Drive system. We work very big into Dropbox. We made a big change from Outlook to Gmail, Dropbox to Google Drive. And my frustration with my biggest frustration with Evernote is trying to share information outside of the Evernote community. If you're not paying attention and you hit the button the wrong way, they can't read it. A lot of people don't know what Evernote is. And I do a lot of brochures and pricing exercises and stuff like that are much easier kept in that file structure of Google Drive. But every email that is actionable goes into Evernote, and that to me is where that's my file structure, because my life is email. I get hundreds, and a lot of them require some sort of attention, whether I delegate it to somebody else on my team or I've got to do it. It's got to get into Evernote for it to get done. And my biggest challenge has been finding a secondary to-do program, and I've tried a lot of them, but I'm at the point where I think Evernote is picking that up better now, and I can manage an awful lot of that stuff. So I flip between Evernote and Google Drive for my file storage, and Gmail is my communication tool, period.
Okay. And then speak to your experience with the differences between, you do use Evernote more than Scott does on the desktop, on your Windows machine, and you're very familiar with that environment. And then now I know that you've had some learning curves with doing the same functionality on the iPad. So speak to that experience. Is it as strong? Is it just a learning curve and a new way of doing things? What's your take on that?
It's a learning curve and a hunt and peck process. Operating and moving the notebooks around and adjusting them took me 45 minutes to find on the iPad sitting in the Apple store. I actually, last week, was doing a lot of stuff that Stacey and I are working on, and it took me quite some time to figure out how to change the name of say, a notebook. And that may be as simplistic. I'm not thinking about it for sure, but that was challenging. I really like the Windows interface. It's really easy. And I also operate on multiple screens. I've got 3 screens here, dual screens at the other 2 offices. So, I mean, I'm able to have multiple things going on that. And I've not used the split screen on the iPad Pro yet, just because I don't quite know how to, and it seems challenging to do that even on this 12.5-inch screen when I'm used to all this stuff I've got going here. But other than that, other than
the learning curve?
I'm sorry?
Other than the learning curve?
Other than the learning curve and the beauty of what I think the Windows program has, I agree with Scott. I think it's a very simple and easy interface to use on the iPad. Just some of the little tricks and moving things around are more difficult.
Would it be fair to say, though, that you can do what you want to do in Evernote on the iPad? You just had to learn how to do it?
At this point, I'd say I'm probably 95% yes. I mean, there's some things that I haven't been able to do yet and haven't figured out or haven't tried hard to figure out. So.
But it's working as a remote access tool. And do you favor it over your phone? Oh, accessing it over your phone?
I'm sorry?
Do you favor the iPad for Evernote access or your phone for Evernote access?
Well, favors, this is attached to me. So
right.
I use this a lot, an awful lot, and the shortcuts become the shortcut screen on my iPhone is very important to me because I can find stuff fast there that's important to me. But again, this is the 12.5-inch one, so I'm not pulling it out every time I'm sitting in someplace. The iPhone does the job very well.
So what is the main focus then of the iPad and Evernote for you? Is it just note taking in client meetings?
No, it's email, my life planning, I don't use much of my stuff for entertainment. I mean, it's primarily I'm either sitting down knocking out emails or watching something like this or.
So it's the bigger interface that makes you a little bit more productive than doing those features and functions on your phone.
Yes.
Okay, great. I got that. So Scott, do you have any thoughts or response to that?
Yeah, I think that at least on the interface piece, I agree with that. Mine. I have the 9.7-inch, so it is smaller. I am able to take it around really easily compared, I think, to the larger one. But I prefer Evernote just on the iPad because I think you have a little bit more real estate. If you're clicking around with the pencil, for example, that's easier than hitting with your thumbs.
Well, the pencil's a game changer.
Yeah, it's hard to overemphasize how much the pencil changes things.
Okay, well, I don't use the pencil, so enlighten me. Why are you guys so in love with it other than you can take notes in a meeting?
It changes, I think, the entire environment and this is one thing that I've really noticed, and I did not expect this when I started using the iPad. I have a keyboard for the iPad when I'm typing, but there's no trackpad, so I'm using the pencil almost as my mouse. And I feel like it is a much more tactile experience over your keyboard. You are more interacting with the program and with the tool rather than it just being a screen that it's being displayed on. Last week I actually switched back for a short thing because I needed to do. I was doing a presentation here and needed the connector for my laptop, and I was using the laptop again just a little bit, and I just felt slower. It felt sluggish moving with the trackpad relative to just being able to tap directly on the screen. So
you're using the pencil as a stylus also?
The pencil I use for everything.
But you're actually like clicking items, like you're closing windows and things like that.
Closing windows, closing items, entering, doing whatever. I'm doing it like that.
So it's not just handwriting.
No, and I just feel like it's a more natural motion, honestly, than the scrolling with your mouse.
I actually had to add another fingerprint on my access because I've got the pen in my hand so often, and my Evernote is password protected. So I'm hitting the
Touch ID?
my hand all the time. As soon as I open the iPad, this is in my hand, and
Yeah.
it is. It's he's right. You can get in closer on things, and there's other than my big fat fingers, it just really makes a difference in the operation of the tool. I wish that they had the same screen on the iPhone because I'd be taking notes on my
Oh,
iPhone.
totally.
Because I find myself doing this a lot because I'm getting used to this. It's like touching a non-touch screen monitor. If you're used to touch screen monitors, all of a sudden you get to one that's not, and you go, "What the hell's wrong with my computer?"
Well, what do you want to bet that'll be in the next major iPhone release? My guess is it's coming, huh? Especially if you all are saying you would want it, right? Users are wanting it. Okay, Mike, do you use a keyboard on your iPad?
I have one, and I keep it in my briefcase. It's this magic. It's a little magic board from Apple, but I rarely pull it out. I find the keyboard on the screen on the 12.5 is, again, I think I mentioned I'm a lousy typer anyway, so I try real hard to use the voice recognition, Apple's as well as Dragon's. So I'd say 80% of anything that I do digitally into a computer, I talk. So,
And then it's just transcribing that into an Evernote note directly for you?
yeah, well, when you use the Apple microphone, it transcribes it in my voice into typing. Where, like on some stuff, it just records your voice and it becomes a
Audio
file.
Got it. Scott, Mike said that he doesn't use the split screen yet,
Yeah.
but I know that you like it, don't you?
I
How
do.
do you use it? And what roles that play?
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. There's some limitations to it. Some apps, for what I don't understand why or why not, some apps accept you using them side by side, and some you can still use the sidebar and the split screen, but it's like you use one app, and then if you switch back to the other one, it closes. But imagine.
But Evernote supports a split screen.
Yeah, imagine though, the way I would describe it is imagine having a phone attached to your computer screen. And because that's kind of what the interface, the basic interface of the split screen is. Now you can drag it halfway out if you want to. But I use it for all sorts of things. I use it if I'm comparing two documents and reading from one, taking notes in Evernote in the other one.
Do you put email next to it?
No, because I'm usually, I use Evernote as I dump my email into Evernote, and that as my kind of memory and to-do list. And then when I need to write it, I go back, but I'm not usually doing that. I'll do things like, though I use one cool piece of software. It's called, actually, let me look it up. 1 second.
Okay.
And this is one of the shortcomings of that you're seeing right now.
Yeah, you're actually broadcasting on your iPad Pro, right?
Yes.
So
is
powerful.
that video doesn't work? Split screen video doesn't work. But
okay.
I'm back. The tool I was talking about is called Liquid Text. And I don't know if people have seen it. You probably haven't because it's only on the iPad, and I didn't see it. It is really, really cool for PDFs. You can annotate and do some things that you cannot do in anything else. But I'll have that split screen with Evernote, or split screen with, depending on whatever platform I'm in. And so it's just, it's an additional, it adds a little bit to it. But I've actually found that I almost like the simplicity of having one program open at a time. Before I was a guy who, back in my previous life, I had 3 screens. On my laptop, I had just the laptop, but I would have 50 tabs open in Chrome and 20 different programs going on, and I found that was a sap of my productivity. I would get lost.
You need to focus more.
Yeah, I would get lost into where I was and what was going on, and you can only focus on one app and one screen and one program at any one time anyway.
Yeah.
So I've actually found the restriction
beneficial to you.
Beneficial, and then the split screen is nice when you need it.
Got it. Well, Mike, any closing thoughts? Is there anything you wish you had with the iPad Pro experience with Evernote, or is it really working for you? I mean, you seem to be embracing it. You both love the pencil, but in closing, what else would you like to say? Anything?
Um, well, live support. Evernote. Some probably what really would be helpful is some better tutorials on how to interact within it in the Evernote environment, because I do think it's a phenomenal tool, and the more the better.
But it's headed in the right direction for you, huh?
Well, I mean, the technology's finally caught up to my wishes and wants to some degree, so, and my inability to type.
Okay. And you're now you can handwrite, tap with the stylus, and talk to it, and pick up all your notes wherever you are. All right, good. Well, Scott, any final thoughts or requests of the software?
If I had two wishes in Evernote, one is a very basic one, which is, there's some things when you're like sorting notes, it does some. If I go back and I'm looking for a note, it puts in alphabetical order of all notes. Like when I'm changing notebooks, and if I tap, okay, I'm moving it from my inbox to whatever, it rather than putting it in order of notebook and in the notebook structure, it just puts an alphabetical list of all notebooks. I don't think it does that on the desktop, and that's kind of annoying. The other thing, and this is much more futuristic, I think, and the technology is probably more difficult, but transitioning it from, okay, I'm handwriting, but if it could translate from my handwriting into text within Evernote while I was writing it, that would be really cool. There's a couple of keyboards extensions for the iPad that do that, and they're pretty good. Actually, I was surprised. But if I could just write normally in Evernote and have it do that as a normal page, that would be really, really great.
Well, I appreciate both of your time. I don't know that the pencil's what sounds most interesting to me, and I didn't realize how significant an improvement that was. So maybe one of these days I'll go for it. But
not cheap is the problem, and I want a second one in case I lose this.
How does it attach to the iPad?
Well, it doesn't. I have a case that it snaps into the top of here.
Okay.
Which makes it really nice, so I don't lose it, but it does not attach to the iPad.
Yeah,
I'll tell you a little trick. Is Microsoft, at the Microsoft Store, sells a little sticky...
like a magnetic thing?
Well, no, it's, gosh, I think I have one around here somewhere, but it sticks to something, and then it has a pencil loop on it. Yeah. It's $5 at the Microsoft Store, and they made it to hold the pencil for the Surface. And so I bought that and put it in my briefcase, so I had a place to hold it. Michael got it on his and put it on his iPad. So if you're looking for a place to not have this floating around, Microsoft has that's the one answer Microsoft's got.
If you go into Amazon or to Etsy too, there's some other holders that you can clip the pencil that are designed for the pencil. You can clip it in there, or there's some cases, and there's actually one thing that's like an elastic band.
What does the pencil cost?
The pencil's $100.
Okay.
I did find this cool little thing that holds the cap.
Yeah.
So when I don't lose the cap either. So.
Well, you guys are leading edge, so thank you for sharing your insights with us and with the audience here, or with me and with the audience. I appreciate your time, and thank you for sharing your experience. And maybe Evernote's listening, and we'll continue to evolve the product, but it sounds like things are certainly on the right path, and their integration with the pencil and split screen seems to be pleasing to both of you. So hopefully they'll continue with that. And here's to more productivity on the go, really. So thank you for your time, and if you have any questions for any of us, just comment below or send me a tweet at Stacey Harmon. But for this session, I'm going to sign off and say thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime, Stacey.